showing us through our children the things we have to remedy, the things we have to rectify. He calls this the tipul shoresh. Literally the kind of getting involved, the trying to figure out what is at the core of the issue. It's only when a person begins to fix his own issues that are the real issues, which are the reasons that I'm encountering challenges with my children. This is called someone ultimately again who is metapel b'shoresh. Ultimately again who is trying to get to the core of the issue. Rak az yochol gamhu lispala al yiladav ubevade habaya lo tachzor al atzmo. Such a person will be able to daven for his children, and such a person has a chance of remedying the issue. Lumas zos, on the flip side, im holich bekochi va'otzem yodi b'chol mini tachbulos ve'ino osa tipul shoresh ella page reish mem beis ella menasa bekoch letakin es habaya itza hayiladim hu yamshich lisbol va'sevo shelo rak yelech v'yigdal. But also, if a person, when they encounter challenges with their children, ultimately sees that as the children's problems, ultimately sees that as something external to me. That's not my issue. That's my kid's issue. That's my kid's problem. How do we solve my kid's issue? Without realizing that very often, again, I'm also saying, remember, anytime we speak about concepts like this, it's not to say that it's always true. Mechaber is just pointing out something that bears consideration. So if I go ahead and when my child is struggling, I see that as my child's struggle, that's his issue, that's her issue, nothing to do with me, then at the end of the day, I'll never really solve it. Instead, the Baal Muna understands that when my child is acting out, when my child is having issues, that is somehow, some way, a reflection as to what is happening in my life. That is a reflection somehow of what it is that's happening with me. It's sometimes a reflection of what it is that's in a state of disrepair within me, myself. And it's only if I address the core issues that I have the ability ultimately, again, to help my child address his or her issues. But if I just use this, what he calls a kochi va'otzem yodi, no, I don't need to introspect, I don't need to address, there's nothing really that I need to focus on. This is all some type of external issue that can be solved with this or with that. Then ultimately, again, and I don't go ahead and address what he calls the tipul shoresh or the shoresh hapnimi, the inner cause. Then by definition, unfortunately, I will be unsuccessful in addressing this issue. First full paragraph. Even in difficult circumstances. And what are the most difficult circumstances in parenting? Kigon she'echad mehayiladim misach zer le'achav. We'll say, so sometimes we know the most difficult scenario to deal with children is when one child is cruel to the other. The siblings, one child is cruel to the other. Shezeh davar shekasha ma'od lahor lekabel be'emunah. This very often is very difficult for a parent to accept with complete emunah. Me'achar shezeh nogea lo ishit shemitzarim es echa miyoladav. We'll say, we know that. Perhaps we know this as parents. When our children fight and we see a child who we love causing incredible pain to another child who I love, that is a very difficult circumstance to observe. It's a very difficult circumstance to accept. And of course, my reflexive desire is to protect the child, my child who is being hurt. But on the flip side, who am I protecting them against? I'm protecting them against my other child who is hurting them. He goes on, he says, Sarch lahamin, sarch lahamin, shekach Hashem rotzeh. We'll say, so the true Baal Emunah says, that at a certain point I have to recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants this to happen. Now again, remember, this is one of the pillars of Emunah, that everything that happens is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That doesn't absolve the perpetrator from personal responsibility. So if one of my children hurts another one of my children, I have to believe that this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to happen. Okay, that's fine. That doesn't absolve the offending child of his responsibility. But I have to understand that what's happening over here is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to experience. Ki ein isurim lelo avon. Va'afilu kasha la'adam l'kabel hazeh. Alav levato ritzono mipnei Hashem. Ula'hamin Shezelatova v'lo lichos. Well, this is actually very profound. So sometimes a parent thinks, when I see one child hurting another child, so sometimes again a parent thinks that, what's my role in this? My role is the disciplinarian. So that's true, meaning obviously it is my role as a parent to be a disciplinarian and to point out to my children when I think they're doing something wrong, but there's something much more profound over here. To recognize that what is unfolding in front of me is the Ratzon Hashem. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from me in this circumstance? Hapitaron hayichidi b'matzavin kashim kelu hu la'asos tipul shoresh. When I see this unfolding within my home, so really, of course, I'm supposed to discipline, and of course, I'm supposed to make sure that no one's hurting each other, chas v'shalom. But at the end of the day, the core obligation is what's called this tipul shoresh, this introspection, this trying to understand ultimately, again, what is at the core of this issue. Tipul shoresh perusho. So what does it mean to do a tipul shoresh? What does it mean to get to the core of the issue? Sheyachet zman b'chol yom lispalel ulavakesh me'Hashem sheyare lo mahu merames lo. Both say to introspect and to try to figure out, Kadosh Baruch Hu, what is it that you're trying to teach me? You see, everything in life is a teachable moment from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to us. Everything that happens in life is HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving us or conveying to us some type of deeper lesson. So I see something unfolding in my home. I have one fundamental question. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what's the lesson? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what are you trying to be merames? What are you trying to teach me? What is the lesson that I, as the parent, am to take when I see my child acting with cruel indifference towards the other? Ulai hu ba'achzo achzari v'chadome. Maybe the message for me is, I too can be cruel and indifferent. Maybe that's the message. Maybe at the end of the day, the pigam in the midos I see in my child, right? The lack of midos I see in my child perhaps is a reflection of the lack of midos I possess. V'yispala al yaldo shiyeh yelatov v'shashem yitin lo das lesnai tov latzliach b'chayim kizek klal b'chok she'al kol ra'a she'osim tzichem achar kach l'shalim v'al korah shayeladosa hu yispo behemshech ha'chayim shalom lachem tzichem lispal alav shlo yaser ros la'afechad. So we'll say, so what do I do with this? So therefore, when I see my child doing something negative, and we'll say, it's a very profound piece. When I see my child doing something negative, so obviously, it is my role as a parent to discipline, and it is my role as a parent to be a mechanic, and it's my role as a parent to tell my child what is right and what is wrong. But on a deeper level, what he calls the tipul shoresh, what is the message? If I believe that everything has a message from the Ribono Shel Olam, so what is the message here? So what the Mechaber posits is that sometimes the message is that the imperfections, the flaws, and the shortcomings that I see in my children, that I see in my mishpacha, that I see in my home, are very often a reflection on the shortcomings that I myself possess, are a mirror to ultimately, again, that which is in a state of disrepair in me. So instead of focusing solely on how to fix the other, sometimes it requires of me is to recognize what is the message that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is dispatching to me, and what is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling me I need to fix. We'll say, just take a quick look at the next section. With this, we'll just read 2 lines and then we'll stop, because this introduces another very profound piece. He says, Yeshna mikra mitzarim me'ot shel horim. So he says, sometimes the parents encounter very difficult circumstances when Shebnam obitam yotzim letarbo surah chas v'shalom. When sometimes my child goes off the derech, chas v'shalom. Haben holich im goya, o habas im goy rachmano litzlan. Sometimes again, a child, right, is dating or is marrying somebody who's not Jewish. O noflim lesamim ulechevra ra. Or sometimes a child chas v'shalom gets involved in drugs or with bad friends. Va'od matzavim kashim ma'od. And other very difficult circumstances, Hashem Yirachim. Horin ka'ela, apirov, shvurim urutzutzim biyoseh. So parents, understandably, in these circumstances, are broken. They're broken over this reality. This is not how I raised my child. This is not what I wanted for my child. This is not what I envisioned for my child. Gam ha'horim ha'ela, tzrichim ladas, she'nimtsoim b'mivchan shel emunah. Rabbi said it is important for these parents to also understand that the predicament in which they find themselves in is in and of itself a nisayon, a test, a challenge, ultimately in their emunah. Utzrichim she'avinu heitiv, shafal pisha ze be'emes nisayon kasha. Even though this is a very difficult nisayon, mato eles teitzel lehem me'atzvos u'mehayeush u'mehavikuchim u'mehashamos hadadios b'nei ish leisha. A person has to, as I was saying, this is a very profound yisod. A person often has to understand that there's a certain amount of energy that a person has. And I can't necessarily control the amount of energy I possess, but I absolutely control how I use it. So a person sees their child has gone off the derech. A person sees the child Nebuch is involved in things they shouldn't be involved in. So we'll say, so what the Mechaber suggests over here is, what do you get from Atzvus? What do you get from Yesh? Meaning, okay, so you could sit and you could mope, and you could sit and you could be depressed, and you could engage in blame. You could do all of these different things, but what do you gain from that? Well, what's at the end of the day, tachlis? What do you get? I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have sang more Zemiros, less Zemiros, more Divrei Torah, less Divrei Torah. There's no end to the game of blaming oneself. But at the end of the day, we know when you blame yourself, it's great. But what do you get? Zerak yovel lemerivos lotzar. All it does is it brings to fighting and to pain. She'osifu nezek lohem ulebriusim uleshal yadehem. And I will say, when parents engage in the blame, because a child unfortunately has chosen a lifestyle that the parents did not want for them. If all they engage in is blame and in yeush, then all that does is it leads to fighting, it leads to pain, and it leads to all types of damage to the other children. Also, we'll stop over here for today. So what should a parent do? In Meretz Hashem, we'll discuss that tomorrow. All right, Jabal, say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Chav Tes, a beautiful daf ahead of us today. We're picking up Chav Ches Amud Beis 28b, and we're picking up Amar Abayi, which Jabal says 4 lines up from the bottom. So remember again, we had the interesting exchange yesterday between Amimar and Eifa, the brothers, regarding all of the different halachas of Shevuos. So the Gemara said the following: Amar Abayi Zim the Mishkachas Lahad de Eifa Kidimar. So sometimes what Eifa said in yesterday's daf could in fact be correct, in accordance with the opinion of Mard. Kida Amar Rabba Shevuos shelo ochal te'inim v'anavim. Let's listen to this case. I take a Shevuah not to eat te'inim and anavim, not to eat figs and grapes. Now, if you look at Rashi, second line from the bottom, Damar Mar Shevuos shelo ochal te'inim v'anavim yachad biyom echad aval te'inim mechudaihu ochal. So I will say the case over here is, I take a shvuah not to eat figs and grapes together in one day, right? But I can eat figs and I can eat grapes, but as long as I don't eat the other one in the same day. And then what happens? V'chazer v'amar shvuah shelo ochal te'inim. Then I go ahead and I take another shvuah. And what's the second shvuah I will say? That I'm not going to eat figs. Now, what is this shvuah mosif? Take a look at Rashi. V'chazer v'amar shvuah shelo ochal te'inim. V'yava ochal te'inim v'anavim b'yom echad hayimechayiv tarti. So also what this adds is, the previous shvuah only said that it's asur to eat te'inim and anavim. The second shvuah adds on that even if I just eat te'inim, I will be chayiv as well. So the Gemara says, top of Chav Tes Amud Aleph, va'achol te'inim, and what happens? I go ahead and I eat figs, ve'efresh carbon, and I separate out a carbon, right? My carbon olev yored, for my violation of my Shevuos bitoy. And then afterwards I eat grapes by themselves. So I'll say, interestingly enough, in that case, grapes would constitute a chatzi shir. In other words, we'll say, because it's only half of the shvuah represents a chatzi shir. V'achatzi shir lo mechayiv carbon. And ultimately, again, one is not chayiv a carbon. In general, again, one is not chayiv for chatzi shir. Consumption of grapes would be chatzi shir, and therefore one will not be chayiv. Hachanami, so to over here, kigon damar shvuah shelo ochal eser, v'chazer v'amar shvuah shelo ochal teisha. If a person said, I swear I won't eat 10 figs, and then he went ahead and he said, I swear I won't eat 9 figs, va'achal teisha v'hifresh karban, and he ate 9 figs, separated out his carbon ola v'yored, va'achar kach achal asiris, then he ate the 10th. Havi le'asiris chatzi shir, so we'll say the 10th fig would be a chatzi shir, va'chatzi shir lo mechayev, and one is not chayev for chatzi shir. Okay, so we're just pointing out to both sides just how in one of the cases, what Eifa said before that Amimar disproved can in fact be correct. Beautiful. Says the Mishnah, Eizu Shevuos Shav. And we'll say, what is a Shevuos Shav? What is a false oath? Nishpa l'sharman says, Hayadua la'adam. It is any time that you swear to change a fact that is known by people to be an unequivocal truth. For example, Amr ala amud shel even shuzav. If I said about a pillar of stone that it's gold, va'ala ish shu isha, or I said about a man that he's a woman. All right, these are good. Va'ala isha shu isha. So we'll say, by the way, I just want to point out. This is the beauty of our Torah, and the beauty of our Torah is that it doesn't allow truth to be defined by people's subjective whims. There are truths and there are untruths, right? There's truths and there's falsehoods. That's the way it is. How you feel about something is fine. That's your opinion. But at the end of the day, that does not make it truth. MS is something that has to stand on its own. I could feel whatever I want about myself. That's fine. That's my opinion about myself. That does not make it MS. We'll say it's an incredible, incredible musar. That's why we're here. We're here because we have unequivocal MS. We're here because we have MS that is rooted in halacha, that is rooted in a system, that is rooted in the Ribbon Shalom, and not rooted in our own whims or isms. So the Gemara goes, but that's not a political statement. It's just a general, just a yesod in life about what MS is. The moment that MS is defined by people, it's no longer MS. It's opinions, and that's fine. Opinions are wonderful, and opinions should be respected, but it's not MS. MS is something that is defined by an objective metric, by an objective standard, and becomes an immutable reality. So the Gemara goes weiter, Mishnah goes weiter. Nishpa al davar she'ef shalo. I will say, so these are all examples of Shevuos Shav. Or for that matter, he swears about something that is impossible. What's the example of that? Im lo ra'isi gamo shabareach ba'avir. I will say, we'll discuss the formulation over here, but essentially, if I did not see a flying camel, so obviously there are no flying camels. So the mice, again, that's a Shevuos Shav. Why it's phrased in the negative? V'mlora isi we'll discuss. V'mlora isi nachash kekoras beisabad. Or both say if at the end of the day, right? If I swear that I didn't see a nachash, a snake the size of kekoras beisabad. We'll say the way a press used to work is they would have like an olive press. You could actually see this if you go to Katzrin in the north of Eretz Yisrael, where they have the recreation of the Talmudic village there. You can see it; it's quite amazing. So they would have the olives. You'd have a piece of wood, and there'd be another plank that would sit on top of the olives, or grapes for that matter, and squeeze out everything. So if I say that I saw a snake the size of the pressing board, both say there's no snake that's that big, and therefore again, halacha l'maisa, that's the Shevuos Shav. Amr la'edim, bo ve'iduni. I say to witnesses, come and testify on my behalf in Beis Din. Reuven and Shimon, no testimony on my behalf. I tell them, come to Beis Din. And what happens? Shvuah shalom na'idach. They say, we swear we're not going to give testimony. So both say, in this case over here, this is a little bit different than the previous cases, because Rashi points out over here in the Mishnah, Shvuah shalom na'idach, bitul mitzvahu davar sheyefshar. See, both say, the halacha is, if I know testimony, I have a biblical obligation to give it. When I go ahead and I take a shvuah not to give testimony, I'm effectively swearing to be mevatel a mitzvah. Such a shvuah, of course, is void. Nishba levatel as a mitzvah. Similarly, if a person swears not to fulfill a mitzvah, for example, shalolaso sukkah, v'shalolito lulav. I swear I'm not going to sit in the sukkah. I swear I'm not going to take the lulav and esrog. I swear I'm not going to put on tefillin. Zohi shvuas shav shechayavin al zedona makis v'al shigagasa pater. We'll say these are examples of a shvuas shav for which, again, if I intentionally violated it, right, I'm chayiv malkis, and unintentionally violated its pater. I'm pater. Shvuah sha'ochel kikarzu, shvuah sha'ochlan. So we'll say, listen to this. Let's say I made 2 shvuas. I swear that I will eat this loaf, and I swear shelo ochlana. Right? So I swear that I will not eat the loaf. So we'll say, so now what happens? Harishona Shevuos bitui, vashnia Shevuos shav. So we'll say, obviously in this case, what's happened over here is I've made two contradictory Shevuos. Right? I swear I'm going to eat the loaf, and I swear that I will not eat the loaf. Then what happens? I eat the loaf. So we'll say, so ultimately the first Shevuah is a Shevuos bitui, which is fine, a declarative Shevuah. And the second Shevuah ultimately becomes a Shevuos shav, a false oath. Achla, over al Shevuos shav. So therefore we'll say, if I eat the loaf, I'm in violation of Shevuos shav. Lo achla, over al Shevuos bitui. So we'll say, in a case like this, I'm in violation of something. So I swear I'm going to eat the loaf, I swear I'm not going to eat the loaf. So if I eat the loaf, I was makayim the Shevuos bitui, I violated the Shevuos shav. If I don't eat the loaf, I'm in violation of a Shevuos bitui, but at least there is no Shevuos shav. Good. So what it says the Gemara, Amar Ula. And we'll say, now here's the interesting question the Gemara deals with. Now, question number one is, we said that a Shevuos shav is any time you swear to go ahead and change something that is a known fact. So known, actually, the lashon of the Mishnah is known to people. What's the definition of something being known to people? To which the Gemara says, Amar Ula, v'hu shenikar legimel b'nei adam. Something that is known ultimately again to at least three people. To three people or more is something that is considered to be a truth that is known to people. Look at Rashi. First Rashi in the Gemara. V'hu shenikar ha'amud l'shosha b'nei adam hu dahavi shav. Avalo nikar havya Shevuos sheker. And I will say that to be clear about this is actually quite interesting. What we're talking about over here is as follows. That halacha l'maaseh, if I take a Shevuah and the Shevuah is unequivocally false, if that falsehood is known to people, right, and as we've just defined three or more people, then by definition that's called the Shevuos shav. If at the end of the day it's not known to three people, and I will say if it's false, it's false, so l'maaseh that's called a Shevuos sheker. Naf communities between sheker and shav we'll discuss. So Gemara says nishpa al davar shi afshar lo im lo re'isi gal porech ba'avir. So remember again, so the Mishnah said for another example is I take a Shevuah. Just see if I'm going to do this now. Fine. I take a Shevuah about something that is impossible. What's the example of something that is impossible? Shevuah im lo re'isi gal porech ba'avir. If I did not see a flying camel. So the Gemara says, just the Gemara is picking up on the syntax here. Shevuah shara isi lo ka'amar. So we'll say, interesting enough, I would have thought that the Mishnah would have been formulated as follows. I take a Shevuah that I saw a flying camel. That's an example of a Shevuos shav. That in and of itself is an example of an oath in vain. But it doesn't say that. Instead, what does it say? It phrases it in the negative. Im lo ra'isi, if I did not see a flying camel. Why does it say it like that? So the Gemara says, Shua shara isi lo kamar, my im lo ra'isi, Abai Amar Tani Shevuos shara isi. So Abai says, Inach inam, you're right. Change the lashon of the Mishnah. The Mishnah should not read im lo ra'isi. Rather, how should the Mishnah read? Ra'isi. Right? I swear that I saw a flying camel. In which case, again, this is a Shevuos shav. Rava Amar Rava says, no. Here's the case. Ba'omer, Ya'asru kol peros sheba'olam alai, em lo ra'isi gama porech ba'avir. So we'll say, Rava says, what he means to say is as follows. The man takes a Shevuah. All of the peros in the world should be usher to me if I did not see a flying camel. Right? So the only way that the peros should be mutter to me ultimately is if I saw a flying camel. Amr and Rashi, and I both say, now we're going to get into a fascinating discussion. Not about flying camels, but a derivative of flying camels. Amr li Ravina Ravashi, v'dilma, hai gavrat sipora rava chazi, va'asik le shma gamla. Maybe what happened over here is as follows. When the guy said, I saw a flying camel, he didn't mean a flying camel. What did he mean? He meant, I saw a huge bird. I saw a huge bird that mamish looked. It was so large, it looked like a flying camel. The Gemara says, "Va'asik leishma gamla." He called the large bird a camel. V'chi kameshtaba adaite didei ishtaba. Now, both say, now watch this. And therefore, when he takes the oath, he's not making a Shevuos shav. It's not a Shevuos shav. Why are both saying? Because he's not lying. It's not in vain. He's not saying I literally saw a flying camel. What is he saying? I'm giving you a description of something I saw. I saw a very large bird, and it was so big, it was obviously a bit hyperbolic, it was so big that it looked like a camel. And maybe when he takes the Shevuah, he's taking the Shevuah based on his interpretation of his personal words. So both sides. So the Gemara says, is that you telling me? V'chitema basar pumei azlinon, v'lo azlinon basar daitei. So I'll say, maybe what the Mishnah is teaching me is as follows: that when a person takes a Shura, I'll say, Shavuos are based on objective definitions and not on subjective definitions, which Rabbi say is an incredible yisur, as we're going to discuss now. The Gemara is really entertaining a kasha, and the kasha is when a person swears, and I say, I swear I saw this. Do we look at the this in objective criteria, or do we look at the this through the prism of the potential subjective criteria? Where does this come up? Here's our case. I swear I saw, or whatever the lashon is, I swear I saw a flying camel. So what does that mean? Obviously, he didn't see a flying camel. So do we interpret it perhaps to mean that what he's saying is, I saw a bird, or do we believe him to say that when I took that Shevuah, what I had in mind was I saw a bird that was as large as a camel, or do we say no? We don't care about however your subjective definitions categorize that term. When it comes to Shevuos, we impose objective definitions upon your formulations. You swore you saw a flying camel. There are no flying camels. Therefore, you made a Shevuos shav, and therefore you will be chayiv. So is that to say that we go after, they both say, basar pumei literally means this his spoken word. His spoken word is meaning we define his words at face value and do not attribute deeper meaning to what it is that he's saying. V'lo azlinon basar daitei. We don't go after Rabbi is das. What does that mean? So basar pumei means we ascribe objective definition to your words. Basar daitei means we think about maybe you had in mind something else. Votanya. But 1 second, is that true? That we go basar pumei and not basar daitei. Let's analyze this a little bit. Vatanya kishamashbiyan also. When we administer an oath to them, if you look at Rashi says over here kishamashbiyan also kabi shvuos hadayonin. Tanyule hamashbiyan as hamachuyev shvua bebeizin. So both say this is talking about ultimately again people who come shvuos hadayonin, people who come to give testimony in Beis Din. We administer a shvua to them under certain circumstances. So what do we say to him for shvuos hadayonin? Omrim lo, we say this is the Beis Din talking to the witness, to the person taking the Shevuah. Havi Odea, Shelo al daitcha anu mashbiyin oscha. We are not administering the Shevuah based on your own shitos, or based on your own opinions. Ella al datenu va'al das Beis Din. Rather, the Shevuah ultimately, again, is being administered based on our das and based on das Beis Din. Shabbos say means what? That we are going to interpret your words in accordance with an objective standard, not with any deeper or unknown subjective definitions that you may possess. My time, and why is this? Lavni shum da'aminon dilma uskanderi yahivlei va'asik luzuzi. I'm sorry. This is not by edim. This is by contested money. So what are we nervous about? So we'll say maybe we're nervous about the following. I come to Beis Din, right? Ruvain says I owe him $1,000. I say I gave you $1,000. I gave you $1,000. So I have to take a Shevuah now. So Beis Din says, understand, Silber, when you take a Shevuah and you swear that you paid him, the statement that you paid him means in accordance with our understanding of what payment is, not in accordance with what your definition of payment may be. Now Gemara says, well, why does Beis Din have to say this? Is this not to rule out the following case? Dilma uskanderi yahevlei va'asik lu zuzi. Well, listen to this, because maybe I can say the following. The truth is, I gave Ruvain wood chips. I decided to call wood chips money, dollars. In my house, we call wood chips dollars, right? So I decided to call the wood chips dollars. I gave him 1,000 wood chips, so that when I swear, I paid him back $1,000. We'll say, is that a true oath? To me it is. To me it is, because at the end of the day, by us, by the Silbers, we call wood chips dollars. So therefore, I paid him $1,000. So it sounds like Beis Din says, listen, I don't care what you think, and I don't care what definitions you ascribe to wood chips or to anything else. Understand, when you swear in accordance with our definitional realities. So the Gemara says, because they both say, what do you see from here? You see from here that Lamaisa, sometimes when people swear, they do in fact try to swear ultimately with what? With their own definitional realities. To which the Gemara says, "Lo, it's different in this case, and I'll tell you why." Hasa mishum. Both say this is actually quite fascinating. Hasa mishum kanya de Rava. Both say this is in order to avoid the situation of the staff of Rava. What was the case of the staff of Rava? Look at Rashi just a moment. Hasa mishum kanya de Rava. The olam baser pumei azlinan. I will say, in reality, when it comes to Shevuos, we always go after the objective definition of the Shevuah, and we do not focus on any subjective definitional realities. So why does Beis Din have to make this declarative statement at all? That when you're swearing in accordance with our das, not your das. Listen to this. Rashi says, Let's listen to this case. The Gemara tells us the following case of Rava. There was a man who came to Beis Din in front of Rava. So we'll come Reuven and Shimon. Reuven said to Shimon, "Shimon, you owe me $1,000. So Shimon said, "Okay, let me come back to Beis Din. Let me look at my books." The next day, what happened? Shimon goes home. He hollowed out a cane. In the cane, he put $1,000. Next day, he comes to Beis Din. Right? Shimon says, "Okay, I'm ready to swear that I pay back the $1,000." What does he do? He said, "Reuven, do you mind? I'm about to take a Shevuah. Would you mind holding my cane?" So we'll say, so what happens? So Shimon takes a Shevuah. What does Shimon swear? "I swear I gave Reuven $1,000. I will say, is that Shevuah true? On a technical level, yes. Why? Because Reuven is holding the cane of $1,000. So it happened to be, this has an interesting ending, that Reuven became so enraged about what he perceived to be the false Shevuah of Shimon that he broke the cane. And when he broke the cane, the money came out. So we'll say, in that moment, they realized that it is possible for a person ultimately to go ahead and swear truthfully while still lying. So therefore, again, that's why Beis Din always gives this disclaimer. And Beis Din says, even though, again, when it comes to Shevuos, we don't look at subjective definitions, we only look at objective definitions of words, of statements, of phrases. Beis Din feels the need to articulate this, lest someone try to go ahead and technically swear within the letter of the law, but still avoid the proper claim. So to a Moshe Rabbeinu adjured Klal Yisrael. Right? He ran ahead, and this is talking about again when Klal Yisrael is swearing, taking the Shevuah to commit to Torah. Amar lahem du'u shelo al daschem ani mashbiaschem. I'm not adjuring you based on your own das, ela al das hamakom va'al daiti, but rather again in accordance with the das of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and my Moshe Rabbeinu's das. Va'amai leima lahu kaimi mad da'amar eloka. Why does Moshe Rabbeinu have to say this? Why doesn't he just say, Klal Yisrael, fulfill what God told you? Lam mishum demaski adatayavados kochavim. Right? Maybe it's because that when Moshe Rabbeinu would say, go, Klal Yisrael, do what God told you, maybe what God told you could mean what to Klal Yisrael. Maybe it could ultimately mean Avodah Zarah. The Gemara says, Mishum da'avodas kochavim nami ikri Eloha. The difference with both said, the reason why this case was confusing is because if Moshe Rabbeinu would have just said, do whatever Elokah tells you to do, so the people could have misinterpreted that or could have twisted that to mean Avodah Zarah. Because Avodah Zarah is also called Eloha. Dichsiv, Elohei Kesef, Elohei Zav, V'leim Elohu, Kaimu Torah. Why doesn't Moshe Rabbeinu just say to Klal Yisrael, fulfill the dictums of the Torah? To which the Gemara says, Chada Torah. Torah is singular. So maybe Klal Yisrael could interpret that to mean what? Fulfill Torah Shebitzav, not Torah Shebal Peh, or Bal Peh without Bichsav. V'leima kaimu shtei Toros. First wide line, Chavtes Medalef. Let Moshe Rabbeinu say, Klal Yisrael, uphold both Torahs. So maybe I'd say Torahs Chatas, Torahs Hashem. But I will say maybe that means the Torah, maybe that just means two specific Torahs of Chatas Hashem, Karbanos. Kaimu Kala Torah Kula. Why couldn't Moshe Rabbeinu just say, uphold the entire Torah? Avodas Kochavim. I might have thought ultimately that refers to the prohibition of Avodah Zarah. Why? Damar Chamur Avodas Kochavim Shekala Kofer Ba Kimode B'Chala Torah Kula. The both say Avodah Zarah is so severe that anyone who goes ahead and negates the truthfulness of Avodah Zarah, it's as if he's gone ahead and uphold the Torah in its entirety. V'leimelu kaima mitzvah chada. So maybe, v'leimelu kaima mitzvah. So ultimately, why can't Moshe Rabbeinu just say to Klal Yisrael, fulfill the mitzvos? Chada mitzvah. Because mitzvah sounds like singular. Maybe Moshe Rabbeinu is only telling them to fulfill one mitzvah. Kaimu mitzvos. Why can't Moshe Rabbeinu say fulfill the mitzvos? Tarti. So we'll say that means two mitzvos. Kala mitzvos kulan. Mitzvos tzitzis. So we'll say Moshe Rabbeinu would have said fulfill all of the mitzvos. I'm going to thought that's a reference to tzitzis. How so? Damar Mar shkula mitzvah tzitzis connected kala mitzvos kulan. Because Mar said that tzitzis, we'll say, is as powerful and as important as all of the mitzvos in the Torah. V'leima lahu kaimu sheish me'os v'shlosh esrei mitzvos. So why can't Moshe Rabbeinu say, fine, fulfill 613 mitzvos? U'letamech leima lahu al daiti al das hamakom lamali. Well, according to that same reasoning, why can't Moshe Rabbeinu just have simply said, you're entering into this covenant with God al daiti based on my Moshe Rabbeinu's definition of the covenant. Al das hamakom lamali. Why do I need to make this shvuah dependent on the das of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Chav Tesam and Bezer will say, Elikihechi to tehevi hafar l'shvuah sahu. But rather, again, what Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to do is the following. Just like there's a neder shehudra al das rabbin, just like Rabbi says, we'll discuss that there's a neder that is undertaken with the knowledge of the public, which ein lo hafara has no annulment. So to a shvuah that is taken, so to speak, with the das of HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no annulment as well. So I will say, so bottom line, so therefore Moshe Rabbeinu Dafka uses this verbiage. Now I will say, now this is a very important discussion over here, because what the Gemara is essentially grappling with is, when a person takes a shvuah, who controls the definitional reality? Does the swearer control the definitional reality, or does the Beis Din control the definitional reality? So we'll say, so how do we paskin? So the Rambam says, this is in Hilchos Shevuos, Perek Beis Halacha Tezai Lefichach Kishamashbian Hadayonin as Hanishba. Therefore, when the Dayonim go ahead and administer the Shvuah to the person who's taking the oath, Omrim lo al daitech anu mashbiyim oscha ela al datenu. So Beis Din says explicitly, you swear do not control the definitional reality. We, the Beis Din, control the definition. So whatever you have in your mind about whatever definitions or however you want to contort different definitions to conform to your reality is absolutely meaningless. We, the Beis Din, define the definitional reality, and it is based on that definitional reality that you are taking the oath. Good. Weiter. So remember again, he says, if I didn't see a snake the size of the beam of the press, velo, is that not true? Meaning, are there not large enough snakes like that? But there was this snake that was in the times of King Shapur. And what happens? The Gemara says, the achzik tleisar or vasa tivna. The Rebbe was able to go ahead and swallow 13 barns filled with hay. Big snake. Rashi says over here, last wide line on the top, Rashi says, the achzik tleisar arvasa tivna, malish loshesrei arvos susim teven, sha haya bolea b'nei adam. Uva'asu chavilos teven, v'nastu b'hen behemos v'chayos v'gachale ish timunim b'hem. So they were talking about this snake that apparently was so large, used to swallow people whole. So they came up with a plan to be able to kill the snake, or the serpent, whatever it was. And what they did is they went ahead and they covered animals in hay. They put coals inside the hay as well. So the serpent would go ahead and swallow the animals with the hay, with the coals. It swallowed up enough coals that ultimately, again, essentially was incinerated from within. But the idea is that it took 13 storehouses of hay to accomplish this task. The point being, there are big snakes out there. That's the point. Amar Shmuel bitaruf. So the Gemara says, what's the case? So here Rashi says, taruf had the kamar kors beisavat shishu charitzim kach ra'isi nachash menura. So we'll say ultimately again, it doesn't have like the grooves, like the wine, like the beam press has. So the Gemara says, Amar Shmuel taruf kulunami mitraf trifin. So it's not true. In other words, the Gemara says that it's not true. You do find snakes that look like that. Kisha gavu taruf. We'll say ultimately again, you don't see the back, meaning the idea is over here, it's a different type of snake, where apparently the spot, it's not spotted on the back. The beam for the presser, we'll say, has grooves that make it look like it's spotted. So the Gemara says that there aren't snakes that are so large like the press, or like the beam of the press, that have spots on their back that make it look like the beam of the press. So therefore, if a person says that I saw a snake that is spotted like the beam, then the might say again that's a Shevuos Shav. Fine. Shevuos Sha'ochal Kikar Zu Shevuos Sha'ochleina. To which the Gemara says, Hashta Mishum Shevuos Bitoy Mechayiv Mishum Shevuos Shav Zlo Mechayiv Hariyatza Shevuos Shav. So we'll say, how could it be that we say that if he's going to be Chayiv for Shevuos Bitoy, that he's not going to be Chayiv for Shevuos Shav? At the end of the day, we'll say that second oath became a Shevuos Shav. Rabbi Yirmiyah Tani Afal Shuas Bitui. So Rabbi Yirmiyah Enochinam, he says, say you're correct. You will be chayiv. Will say in that case, when you make both Shavuos, you will be chayiv ultimately again, not just for Shavuos Shav, but also for Shavuos Bitui. Good. I will say last mission of the parak. Shavuos Bitui. I We'll say now again. Now we discuss what. It's interesting. At the end of the parak, discussing Shevuos Bitui. Now we'll discuss. By the way, what is a Shevuos Bitui? So the Gemara says, no, not really. We've discussed what is Shevuos Bitui. Now it's just some of the mechanics. So Shevuos Bitui. We'll say declarative Shevuah. No hages ba'anashim u'benashim bikrov. Good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. Bikrov. Almost slipped by me that time. So it says Shevuos Bitui. We'll say a declarative Shevuah. No hages ba'anashim u'benashim applies to men and to women. So we'll say men, women, anyone can make a Shevuos Bitui. Bikrovim u'berachokim. I will say it applies ultimately again to people who are related to you or to people who are unrelated to you. In other words, we'll say, so what does this mean? This means, remember, the classic case of Shevuos Bitui is, I swear I'm going to give a loaf of bread to Ruvain. Right? So that is binding whether Ruvain is related to me, Ruvain's not related to me. Bikshelin, bipsulin, whether I will say whether the person is kosher or apostle, Rashi says kosher leidus, not kosher leidus. Bifnei beizin v'shelo bifnei beizin. Mipiatzmo. I will say, and I can make a Shevuos Bezdin, a Shevuos Bitui, declarative Shevuah, in Bezdin, outside of Bezdin, makes no difference. Mipiatzmo. I will say, as long as I am articulating the Shevuah myself. V'chayovin al zedona makis v'al shigagasa carbon olav yorei. And I will say, if I make a Shevuos Bitui, and I intentionally violate it, I am chayiv malchus for the intentional violation, and for an unintentional violation, I am chayiv a carbon olav yorei. Fine, that's Shevuos Bitui. Shevuos Shav. What about Shevuos Shav? Now remember again, in the last Mishnah, we just gave the definition of a Shevuos Shav. Nishpa l'shano says hayadua la'adam, one who tries to change certain things that are known to people. So what's halach with the Shevuos Shav? So no hages ba'anashim v'nashim. So both say again, it applies to both men and women. B'rechokim u'bikrovim, with people close to you, with people related to you. Right? So Rashi says over here, he says, Shevuos Shav b'krovim b'rechokim, Amar ala ishu isha ben karo b'rein rachok. We'll say, if I go ahead and I say that man is a woman, or that woman is a man, whether that person is related to me or unrelated to me, it becomes a Shevuos Shav. So the Gemara says, B'ksher b'psulin, whether a person is kasher apostle, b'fnei bezdin v'shalo b'fnei bezdin, whether I take this Shevuah in the presence of Bezdin, not in the presence of Bezdin, umi pi atzmo. And I will say again, like we said before, mi pi atzmo, Rashi says over here, shemotzi es Shevuah mi piv, kidichsiv kra. I will say the idea over here is, I'm only chayiv for these Shevuos if I explicitly articulate to them. V'chayavin, azadona makis v'al shigagasa pater. And I am chayiv for, if I violated intent, meaning if I intentionally makes the Shevuos Shav, I'm chayiv ultimately again for makas, but unintentionally I am pater. So we'll say as opposed to a shogeg by a Shevuos Bitui, which is chayiv a carbon olav yorev, shogeg by Shevuos Shav is pater. Achas zu v'achas zu. We'll say both in the case of Shevuos Bitui as well as Shevuos Shav. Hamushba mi piachirim chayiv. We'll say ultimately again, if the oath is administered by someone else, I will still be chayiv. We'll say what's an example of an oath administered by someone else? For example, Im lo achalti hayom lo einachti tefillin hayom mashbi'acha ani va'amar amen. So we'll say the case over here would be, I swear. Let's say Reuven comes over to me and he says, Silber, right? Do you swear that you did not eat anything today? And I say, Amen, Amen. So we'll say my Amen is a declarative statement, chayiv, and therefore I will say my saying Amen is ki'ilu what? As if I have declared the Shevuah myself, and therefore in the event that I violate that Shevuah, again, whether it's a Shevuos Bitui or whether it's a Shevuos Shav, ultimately again I will be chayiv. So it says the Gemara. Says Shmuel, Amar Shmuel, Kol ha'ona amen achar Shevuah, kimoti shua mipiv. So we'll say Shmuel says, anyone who answers amen after a person goes ahead and says a Shevuah, Kol ha'omen amen achar Shevuah. We'll say any time that I answer amen after, right in response to someone who has made a Shevuah on my behalf. So we'll say the case over here is someone else is articulating the Shevuah. And again, Reuven is not making the Shevuah for himself. Reuven is making the Shevuah on my behalf. I answer amen to that Shevuah. It's as if what? Kimote Shevuah mipiv. it's as if I have said the Shevuah myself, as if I have articulated the Shevuah myself, which I will say again, the truth is, this is not novel. This is the din of Shomea Ka'ona, right? You go ahead and you hear Kiddush on Shabbos, even if you don't make it yourself, but you go ahead and you say Amen. Now again, obviously it's different mechanics. But the idea by Shevuah is if somebody declares the Shevuah and I answer Amen, it's as if I have made the Shevuah myself. Dichsev, where do we get this from? Va'amra ha'isha Amen, Amen. I will say, amazingly enough, where do we get this from? We get this from Sota. Then what happens? The Kohen goes ahead and, so the pasuk is, Ubo hamayim hama'arim ha'ele b'me'ayich, litzpos batim v'lam pil yorech. So the Kohen says to the woman, if you are guilty, this water will come and kill you. And what happens? Va'amra ha'isha, amen, amen. So what do we see from here? Now, she herself never explicitly articulates the Shevuah. She herself never explicitly says the words. But what does she say? She says Amen. And what do we see? That Amen is enough to make it tantamount as if she has taken the Shevuah herself. Amar Papa Shmei Rava. Papa says the name of Rava. The truth is, Masnisin Ubraisa Namideka. We could prove this assertion. From the Mishnah and from a Braisa as well. Diktani, because also we learned Shevuos ha'idus nohages ba'anashim u'benashim. So the Rose says, so again we'll see this later on. Shevuos hadayanim, which Rose means again the Shevuah administered from the dayanim upon the litigants in a case of monetary dispute. Nohages ba'anashim v'lo benashim. It applies ultimately again with men, not with women. Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is not Shevuos, this is Shevuos ha'idus. Shevuos ha'idus means witnesses come to Beis Din to go ahead and give testimony. Under certain circumstances, we have the ability to make them take an oath. This Shevuah only applies to men and not to women. Now that's obvious. Why is it obvious? Because the Maisa Eidos is given by men and not by women. Shevuos ha'idus lages b'anashim v'lo b'nashim b'rechokim v'lo b'krovim. To non-relatives, but cannot be administered to relatives. Again, same idea. Relatives can't give testimony. B'ksherin v'lo b'psulin. To people who are kosher or not to people who are apostle. Why? Because people who are apostle can't give edus. Ve'eno noheges ela b're'uyin lahaid. And it will say it only applies to people who are ra'ui, who are fit to give edus. U'bifnei Beis Din v'shalo bifnei Beis Din. And it will say a Shevuos ha'edus could only be given in front of Beis Din. And v'shalo b'fnei Beis Din I'm sorry. B'fnei Beis Din v'shalo b'fnei Beis Din mipiatzmo. And I will say this b'fnei Beis Din v'shalo b'fnei Beis Din mipiatzmo. And I will say this Shevuah can be taken both in the presence of Beis Din and not in the presence of Beis Din. Mipiatzmo. I will say mipiatzmo means what? I, the aid, must articulate the Shevuah myself. Umi piachirin einon chayavin ad sheyichberu bahen beBeis Din. Dear Rabbi Meir. And I will say, if the Shevuah was what we call piachirin, if it was administered by others, then ultimately again, the aid cannot be chayiv for that until the point that I negate that Shevuah in the presence of Beis Din. Dear Rabbi Meir. Vitanya b'Braisa. And I will say, we learned in the Braisa, Shevuos ha'idus ketzad. I will say, what's the case of Shevuos ha'idus? Amar la'edim ba'u v'ha'iduni Shevuah she'ein anu yotzum. Sorry. Amar la'edim ba'u v'ha'iduni. Right? I come to witnesses. I say, witnesses, come and give testimony for me. And the witnesses say, Shevuah she'ein anu yodin l'cha edus. And the witnesses say, we swear we don't have any edus for you. O sha'amru ein anu yodin l'cha edus. Or we say, Shevuah, that I don't know any edus for you. Mashbiya ani aleichem va'amru lo amen. So I'll say the second case is where what? Is where I say witnesses, come and give testimony for you. And then I say, take a Shevuah that you don't know any edus for me. And they say, amen. They affirm that. What's the halacha? Bein bifnei Beis Din, bein shelo bifnei Beis Din, whether this happens in front of Beis Din, not in front of Beis Din, bein mi piatzmo, bein mi piacherim, whether the Eidim articulated the Shevuah themselves, or it was administered by someone else, once it's proven that the Eidim are in violation of that Shevuah, they're going to be chayiv divrei Rabbi Meir. So we'll say, what do we see over here? Kashen ahadadi. We'll see an inherent contradiction. We'll say, what's the inherent contradiction? The inherent contradiction is, in the first place, it seems to indicate to us what? That the Shevuah only works if what? If the Eidim articulated themselves. And yet in source number 2 it appears that what? That if the Eidim, even if it's articulated by someone else, but what? They answer Amen. it's as if they have articulated the Shevuah themselves. So which one is it? Elalav shmamina hada ana amen hada lo ana amen shmamina. It also rather says the Gemara. You know what the distinction is? In case number one, right? The Eidim did not say amen. That's why the Brisa says that Lamaisa the Shevuah would not be good. The Shevuah would only be good if they articulated it themselves. In Brisa number 2, Rabbi said the case is where the Shevuah is made by someone else. It's articulated by someone else, but the Eidim say amen. As long as they say amen, Rabbi said it is as if what? They have articulated it themselves, and therefore it is a bona fide Shevuah. Shmamina. So the Gemara says, the truth is, Ravina says to Rava, our Mishnah that we just read also proves this same assertion, this assertion of Shmuel, namely that if you answer Amen after someone else articulates the Shevuah, it is as if you have articulated that Shevuah yourself. Where do we see this from our Mishnah? So the Gemara says, Masisin dehachanami deka dikatani Shevuas bitui. No, I guess by Nashom and Nashom and Chokim Mikro Mikshem Psulin. So what did we say? We said that a Shevuas bitui ultimately applies to men and to women, with relatives and non-relatives, with Ksherin and with Psulim, Bifnei Bezdin v'shalo Bifnei Bezdin, both in front of Bezdin, not in front of Bezdin, Mipi atzmo in, Mipi achirim lo. So we'll say, so what happens? But it's only if you articulate the Shevuah yourself, but not if it's articulated on behalf of others, or I should say, not if it's articulated by others on your behalf. Yet, Vikatani Seifa, yet we'll say, look at the end of the Mishnah. They will say, yet, what does the end of the Mishnah say? That both by Shevuas Bitoy and Shevuas Shav, if somebody else articulates the Shevuah on my behalf, I will be Chayiv. Kashina Hadadi. We'll say, inherent contradiction. The first part of the Mishnah seems to indicate that I'm only Chayiv if what? If I articulate the Shevuah myself. Second part of the Mishnah says that what? Even if someone articulates the Shevuah on my behalf, I will be Chayiv. So which one is it? Elalav shmamina hada ana amen hada lo ana amen. Plus it's not a contradiction. When do we say that a Shevuah articulated by someone else on my behalf is as if I have taken the Shevuah myself? That's when I answer amen. But if somebody else articulates the Shevuah on my behalf, thank you for articulating the Shevuah on my behalf. But if I don't answer amen, I do not bind myself to that dibur, and therefore by definition that Shevuah does not devolve upon me. So we'll say, at the end of the day, what it turns out is that what? We have two Mishnayos and a Brisa that all highlight this same Yisod, which is what? That answering amen is as if I declare the Shevuah myself. If that's the case, then Shmuel, why do I need you? Right? Excuse me, but why do I need your statement at the beginning over here? Kalaona amen achar shua kimoti shua mepiv. Dummy. Why do I need to say the Shmuel? It seems to be clear and explicit in the Mishnayos and in the Brises. To which the Gemara answers, Dukya demasnisin kamash malon. It will say Shmuel is coming to teach us the diyukim in the Mishnah. In other words, that it's only based on Shmuel's statement that I have the ability to be medayik in the Mishnah and to reconcile ultimately again the Reish and the Serbos. Take a look at Rashi. Tukye demasnisin kamash malon. Ashmoinan de davka tnan mepi atzma b'shuas bitoy aval mepi achirim pater umediktani masnisin seifa achazu v'achazu mushal mepi achirim chayiv davka ba'anu amen. So we'll say it's only, and what the Gemara essentially is saying is only once I have the declarative statement of Shmuel, namely kala ona amen achar shua kemoti shua mipiv dami, that if you answer amen to a shua, it's as if you've articulated the shua yourself. Once I have that statement, then I know how to understand the Mishnah over here. Then I understand how to understand the other Mishnah, the Braisa. So his statement helps bring clarity to all of these different sources. And I will say, bottom line, that indeed is halacha l'maisa. The Rambam codifies this halacha l'maisa, that kala ona amen achar shua kemoti shua mipiv dami, that I could have a case where although I don't articulate the shua myself, someone else is articulating it on my behalf. So if they articulate it on my behalf and I remain silent, I'm not bound. But if they articulate it on my behalf and I answer amen, then ultimately again I have bound myself to that shua. That shua becomes binding as if I've articulated that shua myself. Hadran alach, Shevuos Shtar. We'll say Mazel Tov. And Mir Hashem, tomorrow we begin the fourth parak.